Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Hundreds pack Christchurch Cathedral to bid farewell to the late Fenton Nemore.
Bahamians react to policy changes at social services.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, former cabinet minister Fenton Nemore was laid to rest today following an hours-long emotional homegoing service at Christchurch Cathedral. However, as loved ones and former colleagues remembered the man described as a warrior and visionary, they also opened up about how he was thrown under the political bus. Our Gillian Gray tells us more.
Father, friend, and fierce fighter. Those are the words that many used to describe the late Fenton Nemore at the emotional farewell service. Hundreds packed Christchurch Cathedral for the homegoing service of the former state minister for the environment. Though Nemore's time in public office was brief, the indelible impact he left on his colleagues was evident, as one by one, they stood to pay tribute to the engineer and politician with the booming voice. However, not all memories were fond ones. Nemore's former cabinet colleague Byron Woodside sarcastically made reference to the bad hand Nemore was dealt by his party, claiming he was thrown under the political bus.
He was a visionary, but he got thrown under the political bus. They sent him to Exuma, and all us got sent home. He wanted to run in 2012. But you know, he got on the wrong team. He got on fall on the radar. and like they say, the rest is history.
Woodside's lighthearted joke echoes that of Nemore's final radio interview, where he revealed that he made numerous calls to senior members of the FNM, but those calls were ignored. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, who appointed Nemore to serve in his final cabinet, also expressed extreme disappointment in the way Nemore was treated.
He then sought to become chairman of his party, the FNM. That effort did not succeed. In spite of his illness, he sought later to become a candidate for re-election to the House of Assembly, but in that too, he was rebuffed. Sadly and dishearteningly, after his political defeat in 2012, Fenton, a chemical environmental engineer from very good schools and with an MBA, could not find full-time employment in this country he had served so faithfully. That was the unkindest cut of all, and that saddened me greatly.
Nemore's life in politics was heralded by politicians from both sides of the political divide, as they spoke fondly of the man they say was a ferocious warrior.
We've lost a man of courage, a nationalist, a lover of life, an ardent environmentalist.
He has taught us all the value of faith, and that God is the source of our faith.
His wife, Q-Tel, too emotional to speak, pre-recorded her tribute to her husband and best friend.
What we had, Fenton, in such a short time, some persons will never experience in their lifetime, and I am forever grateful for this blessing.
Nemore died at his Hutchinson Road home last week following a 4-year battle with colon cancer. He was 53. Reporting for our news, I'm Gillian Gray.
Rest in peace, Mr. Nemore. Your contribution to the Bahamas will not easily be forgotten. Now moving on to the housing regulation front. Several residents of the All Saints Way and Bedrock shanty towns expressing gratitude to government following a revelation that those shanty towns would be spared from demolition. According to Labour Minister Dion Fowkes, they're rewarding those communities for their building standards.
Yeah, I appreciate that what government do for us because we spend a lot of money. You could see that for your own self.
Lady J. LaFrance has been living in the Bahamas since 1985 and in the All Saints Way Haitian village for the past 15 years. He's one of several residents who have spent years working on their homes, aiming to build them up to government standards.
But I do my best, because if I had money, I could do more, but what I have, I do what I could.
Chairman of the Shantytown Action Task Force and Minister of Labour, Dion Folks, revealed on Wednesday that the All Saints Way and Bedrock shantytowns would be spared demolition because many of the homes were built to code. Taking a look around LaFrance's home, just off Golden Isles Road, it's a work in progress. However, the objective of building a proper home seems to be firmly intact. He shows us a well-appointed bathroom that only appears to require some tiling work. He explains why he hasn't bothered to complete the work.
It's my bathroom. When I hear
right,
they say they come break it, I ain't finished that.
Right.
You see that?
Of course, of course, of course.
Because I slow down, because later on I might be sorry, because that's why I ain't finished that.
Another resident who identified himself as Clark says he's been living in the village for 25 years. He says he agitated for utilities to be installed in the area and admits that residents may not have gone about building their homes the right way.
Yes, well, we know that it was built without the government approval with the plans, and it was our hopes and dreams that the government would at least give them an opportunity to go and get those things in place. You know, some of these folks are Bahamians, full Bahamians, not just a Haitian Bahamian, but full Bahamians.
Well, I'm very happy because a lot of people here didn't have nowhere to go. A lot of people spent plenty money building their house, and we didn't know this was Crown land, so we was leasing from someone.
The other people who live in shanty town should learn a lesson from this shanty town to build in code the next time they try to squat or do anything like that, but I think the government did a great job.
While many All Saints Way residents express gratitude, one resident, Victor Moon, says the decision was too sudden.
Wait, we need some time to think about it. It's just going to go fast like that, but that there ain't famous for me. I don't like it, but I feel inside I'm weak.
Over in the Bedrock Haitian village located east of Bacardi Road, permit numbers feature prominently on the homes leading into the community. Some of them appear alongside a government notice advising the homeowner that their structure must be taken down within 28 days for failure to obtain building permits. With folks announcing that the Bedrock community will now be spared, it appears that these homeowners, like Luis Duvician, will have a second chance to get things right. He says he's grateful to government for its decision, and unlike other areas, the homes in Bedrock were built up to standard.
That look very good. You know what I'm saying? But this house look good too. They have bathroom and everything, internet, you know, cable, water, everything.
Meanwhile, the group calling itself Respect Our Homes Limited, along with 177 residents and occupiers of land within certain unregulated communities, have made application to apply for judicial review and interlocutory and constitutional relief. They're challenging the decision of the Minister of Public Works, Desmond Bannister, to serve notice on the individual applicants, requiring them to remove structures that were allegedly built without first obtaining valid building permits. The application also seeks to challenge the apparent decision of the government to take possession of land in shantytowns occupied by the individual applicants, as well as the apparent decision to have power and other utilities disconnected. The application seeks to have those decisions set aside, as well as an order of prohibition preventing the respondents from entering the land or causing any utilities to be disconnected other than according to law. In news from Grand Bahama, on the heels of the Wynn Group's announcement that the deal to purchase the Grand Lucayan Resort has gone up in flames, former PLP Chairman Reynard Rigby is labeling plans by the Minnis administration to step in and buy the shuttered resort reckless and thoughtless. He questioned how a government that just raised taxes could even fathom purchasing a hotel, adding that alone won't solve Grand Bahama's problems. Bonnie Toot reports.
The one deal that they talked about in Grand Bahama sort of seemed to have gone up in flames.
Nearly 3 months after Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest announced that a much-anticipated deal to get the Grand Lucayan up and running should be wrapped up soon, that deal is dead. Wynn Group CEO Paul Wynn confirmed they have withdrawn their bid to purchase the hotel on Grand Bahama, citing high operational costs on the island and Hutchison Whampoa's final purchase price of $65 million. Wynn Group had been in talks with the last Christie administration and the Minnis administration to purchase the hotel. However, Wynn said he gave government notice last week that Wynn had pulled out of negotiations and had its deposit returned. This latest development comes as government considers purchasing the hotel itself, a move former PLP Chairman Raynard Rigby called reckless.
Purchase of the hotel alone in Grand Bahama is not the panacea of all the ills that plague the Grand Bahamian economy. And so if the government's only program, only plan, only idea is for the Bahamian people to purchase the hotel in a time when they say they had to increase VAT because the public purse was empty, shows to me that it is a reckless, not well thought out, not well considered idea. How are you going to get guests to be in the hotel? Who's going to manage and run the hotel? All of these things we have not heard.
Finance Minister has painted a grim picture of the country's finances, telling Parliament on more than one occasion that the cupboards are bare. In an attempt to get the country on a more stable financial footing, government made the unpopular decision to increase the rate of value-added tax to 12%. 1 year in office, Rigby says the Minnis administration has gotten off to a slow start, and it is becoming increasingly apparent the current government has no plan.
This talk now of buying the Lucayan resort in Grand Bahama, is an old idea from the 80s when the Hotel Corporation of Linden Pinling was buying hotels to sort of jumpstart the economy. Listen, this is our country. This is our country. We want governments to succeed because all of us succeed. What we do not see is any visionary, pragmatic, radical changes that are being proposed by this government. The mandate that they have speak largely to what the Bahamian people expected, and I think thus far they're not lining up to all of the promises they made on the campaign trail.
Meanwhile, Wynn has said it could take up to $120 million to get the Grand Lucayan up and running. He revealed his group is prepared to provide a loan for the government to purchase the hotel. However, Rigby says that alone won't fix Grand Bahama's problems.
I think this idea that buying the hotel alone is going to fix the economy in Grand Bahama is false.
During a recent trip to the island, the Prime Minister announced that government would purchase the resort, but no details have been given to date on how it would be run. Reporting for R News, I'm Vonik Tu.
Residents are reacting to a reported scaling back in the school uniform assistance program offered by the Department of Social Services. Jasmine Brown has their reactions in this report.
If you're going to tax me more on the road, still like a garbage, then I have a problem with that. So the children who are going back to school, I am sure their parents don't have it. I think we should be able to be giving them more. You're taxing me more, so you should be helping more.
It's the sentiment expressed by just about everyone we spoke with as they expressed surprise over a reported shift in the department's uniform policy. Richard Johnson is self-employed, but he says with increased taxes and the cost of living continuing to skyrocket, he is on the verge of going broke. While he is not receiving assistance from social services, these two women are. We met them outside the Social Services Center on Robinson Road. They did not want to show their faces, but they did want to express their views. The young mothers had spent hours on the line in a bid to receive food coupons. They both say any reduction in assistance will be bad news for those who desperately need it, as they asserted the government needs to place its focus on poor Bahamians.
I think the rule says they're only going to help 2 children in each household. And some parents have more than 2 children. So it's really unfortunate.
There are a lot of Bahamians hurting too bad for them to be worried about just a shanty town.
The alleged changes were highlighted by PLP Shadow Minister for Social Services Glenys Hannah Martin, who in a statement released yesterday indicated that the opposition had been made aware of government's policy on social assistance for school uniforms. Hannah Martin says she was specifically concerned about 2 specific guidelines for assistance. No more than 2 children in any household may be assisted, and if assistance was obtained last year, no applicant will be assisted except in extreme circumstances. Hannah Martin said, "This is a drastic shift from a time-worn policy where assistance was based on qualifying need. The new policy has the potential of marginalizing untold households and very likely disrupting the education of many children. The statement continued, "It is also of note that the allocation for uniform assistance has been reduced in this year's budget by almost one-half as compared to the allocation in the 2016-2017 budget." She says this is particularly alarming as the most recent unemployment numbers show no appreciable reduction in the number of people out of work. Our News reached out to newly appointed Social Services Minister Frankie Campbell. However, he referred all comments to Social Services Director Lillian Quant, asserting he was new to the position.
They should have said something earlier, because if they did say something earlier, more people would have planned to say, okay, because I know I got assistance last year, I'm going to make sure I start saving earlier to help, because I know I can get the help next year.
Now, despite their current situation, those we spoke to did remain hopeful, as they say they will continue to rely on the services until things get better. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come on Our News, why a former PLP chairman says Brave Davis can lead the party to victory in 2022. Plus, the Ministry of Education secures 85% of funding needed for its Smart Tech program. That's coming up when Our News returns.